back and review materials. And just a few housekeeping items. Questions and answers. The way we want to run the session is there'll be a Q&A at the end. We're going to organize by category or by company, depending on what your questions are. We will create an FAQ document, a white paper after the session, and you can either submit your question by a note card, or you can text your questions to 650-766-7366.
Fancy.
Yes. So yes.
So I'm paying attention and just taking all your questions in.
And I'm Beth College, I'm Director of Corporate Relations, and Wendy is our newest associate in the corporate side. Actually, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Beth. So Wendy Oaks, I joined Penn State about a year ago. As I said, after I wandered out for about 30 years into the desert, and that desert was corporate America. So I'm primarily focused on medical device sales, marketing, and product development. And the last 12 years I spent in Silicon Valley in startup companies working on interventional radiology and cardiology products, otolaryngology, which is ear, nose, and throat, women's health, and other issues like that. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
So before we jump into the meat of the presentation, which is talking to our corporate partners, we just want to get a quick overview on a little bit about who we are in corporate and foundation relations. We act as an entry point, one of many across the university for our corporate partners. And we deal with the corporations. There's approximately 165 corporations managed centrally that have interests across the entire university, multiple colleges and campuses. So some of you may have relationships within your college campus and units locally, and we're here to help consult, collaborate, strategize on those. But 165 are managed centrally. And as our panelists just concluded, is we do work across sectors with career services, IRO, OIP, and all of those. The team, right now there are 10 of us, well actually 9 of us. We have an opening on the corporate side. Hopefully that position will be filled here in the next few weeks. But Wendy and I are on the corporate side of the house. Eric, Heather, and Adrian work with foundations, and then Kathy, Sharon, and Sandy, who today would not have been possible with some of the late nights we've had the past couple of evenings. Just a little bit about working with our office is not only are we staff principals on various corporations, we're also liaisons to your units. So it's also our responsibility to know your top priorities, what you're looking for, keep that gateway open. There is a liaison assignment list available online. You're in various stages of your career, so some of you know who your liaisons are, some may not. The other, as John referenced earlier, is you can look up in AWA, see who your staff principal is, and just give us a call. And there is also an online assistance form if you have a formal request. So we want to talk a little bit about working with corporations. There's no set model. Each corporation is unique. We usually have, in the relationship, there's usually a dean, we call them an executive focal or central contact. Hopefully that person's an alum because they already understand Penn State. Sometimes it's not, that's okay as well. But that person helps us understand the internal organizational structure, where the potential philanthropic dollars lie, and help us build the relationships amongst various levels across the entire university. Some corporations, like an IBM, we also have an executive champion assigned as well. And as I said, they help us understand their power base versus our power base. These are large multinational corporations that we're dealing with. The structure, understanding the various channels where monies lie. And we usually start very simple with a basic engagement of finding an additional program or project or area of support and begin by building the relationship basically. Some philanthropic drivers, Strategic relationships, we want to know their business objectives. What's important to them? What are they trying to achieve? And where are those match points across Penn State? Leveraging research is potentially one of those. They want our students. They want us. Also creating the brand recognition. I'm sure some of you off the top of your head can name some, or you've seen things within your colleges and your areas. And they also want to continue educating their workforce. So continuing education is what we work quite extensively with our campus. So what we wanted to do today is we put the panel together because we are in various stages with each of these companies. Wendy has been working with Derek and Merck for about 4 or 5 months, so that relationship's in its infancy. Rich, our resident IBMer on campus, moved back to Happy Valley late 2014 and has officially been around since January 2015. So we've got some momentum and some movement. And then Sam, Volvo selected Penn State in late 2009, early 2010 to be the first academic preferred partner, or their only academic preferred partner for research in the United States. So that relationship has built, it's growing, and they actually will be corporate partner of the year this year. We're going to explain why. So I'm going to turn this over to Garrett. Let him get started.
Okay, thank you. So I have to tell a quick story. When I was at school here, I went into a public speaking class, and one of the best things I ever learned, and I use this now, we sat down in the class and the professor said, okay, everyone pick your seat. This is going to be your seat for the semester. And you can't change, you can't move, but take a couple minutes to make sure you're sitting where you want to be. And so we all sat down about maybe 5-10 minutes later. And then he said, okay, everyone stand up and turn your desk around. So everybody who was in the back was now in the front. And I thought, that is so brilliant. Love it. But thank you, it's an honor to be here today, and I appreciate you inviting me here. I'm going to do something real quick here, and it'll have meaning just along. Let's go ahead and take a look at that for a minute. So these two lines, they illustrate a parallel path. It has some sort of a beginning or a start, but a common goal at the end. And so we can go down that path parallel and eventually get to that common goal. But who has time for that? We can do it better together. And I think that's the best way to go about doing this. And I found it interesting when Wendy and I started to engage that, I mean, this is just a wonderful experience for us. It's different, it's new, it's something that Merck hasn't really explored before. And so, in January of 2015, I joined a new team at Merck called the Integrated Delivery Systems Account Management Team. We're about 70 people in the United States, and we cover about 300 integrated delivery systems. You might not understand that terminology, but basically, an integrated system is cradle-to-grave coverage for you in healthcare. Okay, so it's a system that has their tentacles out in all areas of healthcare. Okay, we were hand-selected by the leadership at Merck for our experience in our careers, maybe not necessarily at Merck, but in the industry. But also, a very key area was our intellectual curiosity. We're very curious people. And if you go to a meeting with my colleagues, you'll see that. We will not, and I always say this, I didn't say this to Wendy, you never turn down a meeting. It doesn't matter who it is and with whom. It always results in a learning. So we were then asked to enter into this role with kind of a different perspective. And the perspective is what we call an outside in. Historically, we've been an inside-out organization. Outside in means that that every engagement is from the customer's perspective, okay? We no longer, in our organization, are focused on selling pills or whatever, maybe. We're more focused on, well, I'll say this, we kind of fall into the commercial side of our business, but not being focused on a specific pill. We have a direct responsibility for the sale of an enterprise-wide approach. So we're looking at the entire business of Merck without any direct responsibility for a specific product in a specific therapeutic area. Does that make sense? Okay. We're also responsible for the formation of a strategic business-to-business relationship. That's also very new to our vernacular, if you will. So let me point out a couple key points. Outside in and enterprise-wide. That's our focus, okay? Let me go on. As I set out on this journey in relationship building, it became apparent that it was necessary to understand the passion and dreams of desires of the individuals I was working with, the corporation I was working with, and maybe even specific areas within that group. So what are they trying to do? What's important to them? Now we historically have been in a transactional type of a relationship with our customer. Now it's been forming more into a strategic relationship. And that's a major change in what we've done historically, okay? This movement is going to require insight and trust. Insight requires learning and research and knowledge, both from internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. So I started by going to Penn State Board of Trustee meetings. I learned a lot about the university. I learned a lot about not just the university, but also the medical enterprise within that, embedded inside that university, okay? Whereas when you start talking about trust, trust is built on honesty, integrity, and consistency. Say what you mean what you say, that type of thing. I immediately, let me go back just a second. Apologize. I immediately set out to better understand the direction of Penn State Health and really found out that that enterprise, that medical enterprise, was really intertwined inside the fabric of the entire university. And it's very different than what we see across the country at other integrated delivery systems. So this is a very unique situation. I just talked to a colleague yesterday that's working with Mayo Clinic. His work is completely different than my work. It's a very different arrangement in Mayo. They're also a global healthcare enterprise, a little more focused globally. I spent time with the leaders of the university and of Penn State Health, and it got the attention of different stakeholders. It was through a meeting with Ashley Chan from the Everly College of Science that I was connected to Wendy Oakes in corporate and foundation relations, and it was the beginning of a concept when we got together, right? Let me point out a couple key terms there. Passion, strategy, trust, vision. These are all things that are really important as you build that type of a relationship. After meeting with Wendy, our core team was formed and immediately brought value as we sought to establish a broad-based, multifaceted, sustainable relationship. Through the experience of the corporate and foundation relations team and others, we are able to assemble at our second meeting and do a discovery period that kind of landed in this space. And this is kind of our mapping exercise. Now, not important what the content is, but what we did was we took the top one, the purplish color is Merck. The bluish color is Penn State University, and everything in between were some of the ideas that were thrown out during the session. The first step allowed us to better align our organizations into areas that were most important to both of us. We now had our landing point. It was a chance for both organizations to better understand the direction of the other. There was language spoken that was germane to that organization, but what we found was we were saying language that was common to both. As I sat in the Penn State Board of Trustees meeting and listened to Provost Nick Jones talk about the direction of the university, it became so clear to me in that session that we needed a stated purpose and goals for our core team. He used words like strategy, innovation, sustainability, and some others. And I was really inspired by him to start writing down a couple of key notes on how we're going to move forward with this core team to kind of line up to both organizations. After about 3 meetings, 2 conference calls and a physical meeting, we came up with this. I'm not going to read through it, but point out that there's some language in here that you'll find in both mission statements for both groups. Imagine that. Common goals of a major university and a Fortune 100 publicly traded company. Common ideas, common goals, common language. It's kind of unusual. I didn't expect to find that, and we did. We're both interested in improving the health of populations through efforts that provide mutual benefit, grow depth and breadth with outside partners, and are sustainable. A couple key points to this: broad-based, multifaceted, sustainable, alignment, inspiration, common language, and common goals. Let me go on. Our work group is now able to understand our purpose and our goals. We decided to enter into a phased approach to our work, phase 0 being the identification phase. Again, the content of this is not as important as kind of the idea of the cyclical nature of it. We took an internal inventory. We identified a couple areas of interest and potential projects. And we came kind of to an agreement on the plan for the execution of those projects. As we continue to build out, in phase 1 is considered the execution phase. And we're kind of in that space right now where we're starting to get into a particular project that actually spans quite a bit of the medical enterprise, the university, and Merck as well. And when you go into maybe phase 2 and 3, what we're trying to do there is to understand the capabilities and the desires of each organization, and that learning will help dictate our future. It's safe to say that we want to know where and how our organizations can make a positive impact both locally and globally. So when you're all out working with your individual donors and you're using the outside-in perspective or lens, you will find out what they're passionate about. Let them inspire you. You may find opportunities through those personal connections you never thought about, at least in that initial encounter. So I look forward to your success. I look forward to working with all of you, hopefully, at some point, in some project, somewhere down the road. Okay? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can everybody hear me? I probably would, so my phone's good.
Yeah.
Good to go. Thank you. This is on. It's on. I'm an entertainer, right, Tony? I'm good.
That's why the engineer needs help from the community.
Yeah. Am I having issues? That thing's hard. You got it? Yeah, I think you got it. All right, well, thank you, Derek, and everyone. So let me talk a little bit about the IBM relationship with Penn State. So I graduated from here in the decade called the best of music in the 80s. So I won't give any dates, but probably saw me downtown more than once. But when I was here, IBM was well known for, obviously, the advancement of the computer age. I actually worked on systems that had the IBM logo emblazoned on it. And so we've come from a very focused company producing products to an innovation company 30-some years later that are driving many different initiatives in the world, especially in the space of machine learning, cognitive computing, and the cloud. So we've come a long way, if you will, baby, from those days to today. And so you can also go back and look at that history and say IBM was very integrated in the Penn State fabric in the 80s and the 90s. Everywhere you turned around, there were people who worked here for IBM, who worked on the university campus, helping with systems, helping with all types of different projects. So that kind of faded away, let's say, in the 90s and the 2000s. And our connection with the university was really about one thing, and one thing only: bringing the best students in the country to work at IBM. So at IBM, Penn State ranks every year in the top 3 schools of students we hire. It's either Penn State University, University of Texas at Austin. Oh, by the way, they have a plant right next to their school. Or North Carolina State. So Penn State, in the middle of farm country, produces many, many IBMers. Okay? So we were here recruiting students through all of that time. So what did we want to do with this relationship? We wanted to actually extend the new brand of IBM across the fabric of the university, especially at all levels, at the senior leadership, across the faculty, the students, and of course the alumni. And you all know how we all love the university. So that's pretty easy. But the important piece to me was also this one that was brought up earlier, which was across all campuses and colleges. The stuff they were talking about before is so true. This is kind of the center, right, of gravity, if you will, around the university. But there are so many other things of value outside of University Park. And so I've done quite a bit of reaching out, stepping to other campuses as part of my role. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Oh, one thing to point out, and it aligns a little bit with what Derek was saying. If you look at the 2016 to 2020 Penn State strategy, and you lay it next to the IBM strategy, it's remarkable the commonality that's there. Educational transformation, advancements in healthcare, entrepreneurial innovation, digital presence, environmental responsibility. They're all the same. So what we're trying to do with IBM is obviously align that with the university and together go forward with a common set of objectives. So as Beth said, I've been the IBMer on campus here. I had 30 years in Poughkeepsie, New York, working on those old mainframe things, which, by the way, still exist. And every time you go to the bank, your money's going through one. Whether you like it or not. It's not going through here. It's going through a big machine in the corner. Anyway, so I've been doing it for about 15, 16 months. She mentioned also we have a partnership executive. His name is Doug Baylock. He graduated in the same decade of music that I did from Penn State in computer science as well. And he's a he's a general manager of the IBM Power business, about a $4 billion business. And his hometown is in North Carolina, but His main office is in Austin, Texas. So Doug was here at the end of April to kind of give a, hey, you know, sort of a rallying call. I'm here to help. And so he'll become a very active partner with us and has real good reach in the upper echelons of IBM. There's not too many people. Anybody know who the IBM chairman is? Well, you don't count. Anybody else? Is it a male or a female? What was that?
Female.
And you don't remember her name? Okay. So Doug is right near Ginny Rometty. Ginny is the CEO and chairman of IBM. So he has audiences up at high level. So if we need something, we plan on lean on him pretty hard. Let's put it that way. So what do we do in the IBM on-campus role? I would say number one role is student growth and student engagement. We haven't taken our eye off of the recruiting aspect of this, because if you think about it, you're producing the next generation of IBMers, people who are going to innovate, who are going to be the leading patent people in the world for now 23 straight years. Okay. So one of the important things is, how do you enable growth of those students? So the IBM Academic Initiative allows both now faculty and students to gain free resources, to gain access to free resources, whether that be software, full versions, or courseware. So a faculty member can go in and say, I want to pull these different types of pieces of courses together and I want to throw it right into my particular program or my curriculum, free, no charge. Okay. The other piece is providing access to our cloud and Watson resources. Okay, so now I have to ask that question. Did anybody watch the Watson Jeopardy thing? Okay, good, at least 3 people. So Watson's a pretty smart machine, but you have to train it, right? It doesn't know the answers just because it's a computer on its own. There's a lot of training that goes into it, a lot of data analysis. It reads the papers every day across the world. It's constantly reading medical journals. It's currently in the middle of helping with cancer research and oncology. It's also, as we had some sessions here earlier this year, focused on how does it improve student outcomes in education. So it's got a wide variety of solutions that everybody's trying to tap into. But it's really going to change. I hate to say it this way, I don't sound like a salesman. I keep telling everybody, I'm an engineer. I'm not here to sell you anything. I wouldn't even know how to sell something, right? But the point is that Watson is really going to change the world. In the way that people learn about trends, the way that people learn about, or how they think, what kind of sales projections, or what are the student outcomes, those types of things. So we in IBM thought this is important to provide this to students and faculty for free, to allow them to explore, to build their own applications, to become entrepreneurs. So I don't want to give any pre-announcement kind of thing, but myself and someone from the World Campus team are working on a Watson-oriented challenge that we're going to be sponsoring here in the next coming months, that's going to focus on getting students and faculty engaged in using Watson capability. I mention the top 5 at IBM all the time. Now we have a set of programs, our award programs, and all different types of levels here. So we used to have this program called Students for a Smarter Planet, and we kind of wanted to get away from the Smarter Planet brand for a while. So we've just changed it to be sort of a student faculty award. Well, what it is it's $5,000. The student comes forward and the faculty member, and they kind of come together and put together an idea around something that the student group can go off and produce. IBM, we look at those set of nominations, and then we decide, do we want to fund this one? Do we want to fund that one? And and then we turn around and give the students and the faculty member $5,000. They can do anything they want with that money, without telling anybody. But I'll give you an example on that one that I like to give. Had some students that were working out of the ACM, the Association for Computer Machinery, here at University Park, and they felt in their computer science classes they were only getting silo instruction. This is how you code. This is what a compiler is. This is a circuit board, whatever. And they weren't getting the full end-to-end software development process that goes on in industry every day. So they went off, and about 11 of them put together a team called Stateware, and they wanted to ask instructors to come to them with problems. So they got a problem from a gentleman in life sciences. The poor guy's responsibility was to report out the measles vaccinations and breakouts across the world to the World Health Organization every year. So all I can envision is paper and spreadsheets all over the table, right? So these students put together a project plan to make a hoverable, web-based application for this instructor, and he could pick countries, build graphs, boom, boom, boom. These kids were done in 10 weeks, or something like that, right? This guy was in heaven, right? He just loved it. But what it did was, from an IBM perspective, we see it helping not only the students grow skills, but also addressing potentially a problem that could give insight to future work around measles and inoculation. So that's just one example there. And Beth has on, whoops, oh, was that good or what? There you go. I'm not good with equipment here. Oh, by the way, in my career at IBM, I tested software for 30 years, so you can see what kind of things I can do to things. We also have a number of other programs. Oh, by the way, the faculty award for the students is a September 30th deadline, and that's just to get me the nominations. But, you know, Beth has my contact information. She can get it out to you if you want to reach out. There are a couple of fellowship programs for faculty and for PhDs, both of them highly competitive. I won't talk too much about those, but I do want to mention the next couple. So one of the things that, and I'm trying to hurry, Stan, one of the things that, let me see how many more I got.
30 seconds.
I have 30 seconds! Whoa, whoa, whoa! Anyway, maybe.
Not only does Beth have your contact, she has the velvet book too.
Oh, okay, so I'll move quickly. Anyway, we do some different research awards that we present to the university around open collaboration. Well, that means research at IBM, research at the university work together, but we don't hide the results. They're not IP secret. We want them to be open to the world so that future generations can take advantage of that innovation. Shared university research grants are just what they're entitled. Both folks throwing in some money into a bundle and working on a particular area of research. And I don't want to get too far into the Collaborative Innovation Center, as it's a pretty large initiative where IBM, regional government, and academia get together and try to put together sort of, if you will, a center around an area of research. So the provost and Neil Sharkey, the vice president of research, have sort of set us down in the direction of looking at agricultural solutions for the 21st century, and in the context of that collaborative innovation. Here's some things that we're working on in the area of Watson. I just mentioned the College of Agriculture's looked at Watson a bit. I was just at Penn State Barron last week with a conference around student outcomes. How can we get the best out of our students by looking at data, historic data? They were impressive. I'll tell you why. Because we went in there and we said to them, and I know 30 seconds is over. We said to them, what kind of data do you have? And they said, oh, we have 20 years of data. We're like, you gotta be kidding me. Nobody keeps any data that long. Or they've thrown it out, thrown the disk out, thrown CDs out years ago. So we're really looking forward to diving into that corpus of data to get some insight around. They wanted to focus on the effectiveness of freshman scholarships. So we're going to look at data over a 20-year period and see how that goes. There's a couple there at the top. World Campus, working with some folks in the World Campus office around potential Watson solutions. Healthcare virtual clinic. You might find this interesting. There's a guy in a building on campus in the basement down in the lab. No, he wants to, I guess we're looking at medical instruction here at University Park and obviously the medical instruction that goes on at Hershey. He wants to explore with some business partners the capability to be able to do virtual diagnosis and examination in 2 separate places, and the other place doesn't even know what's going on. So, you know, you might be in one room over here looking at a cadaver, and you could be looking at that same cadaver over here, but virtually separated so that you could do individualized instruction. Pretty cool idea. But they want to use Watson for all of the back-end knowledge base. And then I want to mention one other thing. I promise I'm going fast. Watson. I did it again.
She got out that
Watson for cybersecurity. So we're trying to train Watson to take all of the cyber threats that are out there, learn about them over time, and try to come up with some trends on actions to prevent future attacks. So Penn State has agreed to be a trainer, along with 7 other universities, of the Watson for cybersecurity version, and see if we can come up with some innovative approaches. So very similar to the cancer focus, but this time around cybersecurity. It's the wrong way. These are the areas that we kind of look across, common to an IT organization, I think. This is some information. Are these charts going to be available?
Yes,
okay.
Everything will be available afterwards.
Okay, good. So this chart I won't go into, but this is kind of the IBM student project chart. And I tell the students, you know, anybody can make anything better because the world really sucks, usually, right? I mean, look around you. That's the way it is. Things can get better. They've got to get better, right? But with that in mind, you know, you have all of these different areas that you could focus on, right? Healthcare, communication, electricity, energy. So, you know, students can kind of go anywhere with this. Some students in Altoona said, you know, they're security students, and they wanted to go off and focus around how do they train the preteens about what it means. I don't have my phone here, I'll use that. What it means to be carrying this thing around from a security perspective. You know, their whole world is taking a picture of themselves and putting it out there. And, look, the guy behind you is robbing somebody, you know, whatever it is. But the whole world is centered around, in the preteen stage and now into the teenagers, around the use of mobile technology. So what they decided to do was they wanted to put together a cybersecurity workbook, which was like a set of games, a set of videos, that these young students could take and put that together and start to use it to learn about, hey, when, you know, your password's important. It can't be 1234 on Facebook, that kind of thing, right? So that's just one example. So they've also done something very similar. But I think you get the idea that I go the wrong way. Now, last one, promise. Let me talk a little bit about these links I put on here. IBM Academic Initiative has been around for many, many years. We're launching a new program. I don't know if you folks are familiar with On the Hub. It's educational resource provider from a company called Cavuto. And today, students at Penn State go on to the Microsoft.onthehub.com and download their software that the university is providing to them, or that Microsoft is providing to them for free. Just change the name. Our now academic initiative is going to be driven out of the On the Hub process. So you can go there, you can look around, you can sign things out like a web store, put in your card, and then most of that is free, all based on your email address. So it's psu.edu. We'll go, that looks like a valid psu.edu address. You can have it. Excuse me. Before, you had to go through this long, drawn IBM bureaucratic, you know, sign your life away kind of thing to get access. There's this thing called DeveloperWorks. for a lot of the, I'll call them application development folks who can go on and take all kinds of different courses around programming, around cloud computing, around Watson. Vast set of resources there. And then finally, this is how you get into the idea of cloud if you're a particular student. Okay, I think I'm done. Thank you.
So, but you don't know that we all got together before the event said if we extended our presentations, there would be no time for questions. Method to the madness. Hello, everyone. Great to be here this afternoon. I live down in Hagerstown, Maryland, so it's a quick 2-hour jump for me to get up here. I'm an 80 BS graduate and in 1983 MS graduate here from Penn State. And Rich, I'm surprised you would claim the 80s are the best years. When you said 70s? You lived through the 70s.
I know, I did too, but I...
So here, in terms of Volvo, a couple things we should clear up right from the beginning. I work for Volvo Group, and Volvo Group does not make cars. We don't do anything with cars anymore. It's all heavy-duty equipment, so it's Class 8 trucks here in the United States, Volvo Construction Equipment, Penta Marine Division, so that was sold probably 15 years ago to Ford. Since then, it's been sold to a Chinese company. But Volvo Group today is about 100,000 employees worldwide. We operate in 16 countries. And in the United States, our major facilities are Mack Trucks out of Macungie in the Allentown area. Construction equipment is in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. Just across the border, like 2 miles across the border, is Hagerstown. That's the engine and transmission plant and axle plant. Then Greensburg, North Carolina is our corporate office in the United States, and Volvo trucks are made in Dublin, Virginia. So those are the major places here in the United States. I am a research coordinator for our academic partner program, and I have been from the beginning in 2009. So it's been a great ride. It's not all I do. It's maybe about a third of my job at Volvo. We also have a talent coordinator who works out of the corporate office in North Carolina also. So we both team together and support various activities together. So what is our academic partner program? It's a strategic, long-term, and it's a corporate initiative to support delivery of our vision for access to global academic research and innovation, to build a team of high-performing people, again, globally, from a global perspective. And for Penn State, there are defined research focus areas. These came about from a process like Derek was talking about, a similar type of process at the first few years of the partnership, a SWOT type of analysis to understand, what does Penn State do best and how does that connect with what Volvo desires. And I think for me, the interesting thing, for the group here, really for me, that really opened my eyes up to the global perspective to this, that now with a global corporation, your competition isn't just, NC State and Virginia Tech and Pitt. I mean, it's global now. Companies like ours go anywhere in the world to try to find the best research and talent that they can.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's got to be
Yeah, it just goes all over the place.
Yeah. And I should say the research universities we have 5 in the world, 3 in Sweden, 1 in France, and Penn State here in the United States. And then there are 12 talent universities where students are recruited from around the world. It includes China and India and several places also. So I'm going to focus a little bit here on the research portion to begin with, because that's what I'm involved in, to assist in creating collaborative projects, including a temporary exchange of personnel. And we really value that as we get into a good project, right? And a good project is kind of a win-win for both the university and for ourselves. we really like to see if those professors can come to Sweden and do sabbaticals, or if we can get grad students working in Hagerstown as co-ops. And so we try to do a lot of effort, and that makes for a good connection there. Connect with short-term actions that lead to special competences, and I think really what that means is innovation. You're going to hear that from every corporation, that innovation is crucial to everyone's success. Provide support for educational activities, and that's something we, I think, had an early success on. We got involved with capstone engineering projects, and we've done senior student design projects every year since 2010. And we've really done some really, well, I wouldn't say that every one is a winner, but maybe every third is a really good project. You get the right bunch of students, and really, these aren't just projects that are kind of a nice to do or not worthwhile from a corporate standpoint. We really put some effort into, this is something we want, we want these students to come up with something valuable. Provide support through necessary equipment or tools, and what we've done there, I think out at Larson Transportation, we have, I think, 4 Class 8 trucks out there now. 2 Macs and 2 Volvos out there at the Transportation Center. Develop actions that strengthen the network between 2 or more universities. Since this is a corporate initiative, we have a global conference in Sweden every 3rd year, and we just had one here in June. And as always, it's a fantastic time. We get all of these universities from around the world together, and I think Penn State sent at least 4 people to that conference. And what we talked about at that conference was our desire to have better connections between our universities also, and have them working together. Again, that's a place where we've been successful. Penn State and Chalmers University in Gothenburg have done these student projects together. They've visited each other's campus, and so we're really making some nice progress there. And then coordinate activities that influence major public research programs. We're really fortunate. I think that's our other very early success. We had a large research contract with the Department of Energy for something called Super Truck. It was about a $40 million project. Penn State was one of our partners, our research partners on that project. And so the ability to have that, type of backing and visibility is really pretty cool.
I think you hit a couple times.
Yeah. So our relationship, why do I think, we've seen some success. We've really grown, and I know it's been mentioned here a time or two that I think what John was saying, it'd be great to take this recipe and just, make it work from day one. That could be hard. If you can do that, that's great. But I think one of the reasons that we have been successful is we had early success, and that's important. And with that early success, then we develop some inertia. Then people from corporate see, hey, there's something interesting going on here, and you really be able to kind of continue to build. Philanthropic support ties together all of our elements. Faculty fellowships, we also do, like IBM, scholarships, equipment donations, support for the various research centers, student support from travel, Capstone Engineering Ambassadors is one of the groups we fund. And then we come together twice a year up here on campus. We have a steering committee for Volvo that we try to touch the various people within the organization that have interest. And we visit the campus twice a year and review the projects and review the program itself. Possibility to fund initiatives that strengthen the program. This is important too, and this is some seed money that corporate allows for this relationship. So I would say every year we get 1, 2, or 3 projects that are funded corporately. An important topic that can perhaps be a touchstone to make progress with. The one for this year is Innovation Gateway, and I think if you haven't heard about that, you're going to hear about that shortly. It's a program that Jeff Fortin's group has worked on, and we're helping with one of the seed research projects within that platform for innovation. And then finally, I mean, we're really proud to be Penn State's Corporate Partner of the Year. I would say that from that perspective, I mean, it's great in so many ways, but let's face it, football tickets for homecoming weekend, I mean, that's something everybody should be, you know, that's the carrot there. So this little wheel here, is something I put together in areas that I think we touch on. Executive education, trying to make that connection now. I don't know that it's fully in place yet, but I know people have been talking. Scholarships and faculty support fund, that philanthropy has been done. Larson Transport, we work out there quite a bit. Research collaborations and joint federal proposals, I mentioned SuperTruck. Commercialization, the IP policy here was that's a complete game changer. That was just phenomenal from a global perspective. You know, they didn't believe it. You know, when I slapped that piece of paper down and showed them what that is, they found it hard to believe that the university would do that. So that made it easy for some of these projects to get started. And then finally, our student recruiting and engagement. Of course, we attend the career fairs and do much of that type of work. So in Latin, I've been told Volvo means it rolls, and I would conclude by saying we're definitely, I think, rolling real well right now. So thank you.
Thanks for making up time, Sam. You want me to show you? Let me show you how it works. There you go. There you go.
So since we're a little bit over time,
Right.
are you guys willing to give us maybe 5 minutes for 2 questions? Would that be okay? Okay, great, thank you. So 2 of them came in pretty similarly, and so I'll just read one of them. It says, it seems as though your relationships are formed around company to university alignment or ideas and strategies. How do we interface with that relationship from our units? As you know, you have a lot of individual units represented here. Anybody like to tackle that? Uh-oh.
What's up with that? So I would say that the one way I would propose this work for us is that we have funneled most of our interaction directly through Beth. Beth has been the glue that has connected me to the various campuses and colleges, both here on campus, but also in Altoona and Harrisburg and Penn College. And, did I say Altoona? Okay. Erie. All the other places where we've already visited, and there are more to come. So I think that the way that it's worked well for us is to have a single point of contact in the CFR office. Now, have other things sort of come in from left field? Sure. You know, you talk to a faculty member and then they pass it on to the next guy and he sends you an email, and then it's my job to make sure I tell Beth that relationship is starting. She doesn't care to attend every session, but having her know that there's a connection there, I think makes it valuable. So I would say it's that single point of contact for me that helps with that. I'll make a comment. Oh, you don't have a mic. Oh, here you go.
Well, just to build on Rich's comment there, I think that every time, so we're fairly new to this process with Penn State, and every time we get together with Wendy and our core team, there's almost always a new idea or 10 new ideas, and it almost always involves some other area of the university, of the medical enterprise, or some other person. Even today, I wrote down at least 4 or 5 notes in that opening session, and with Wendy beside me, we need to connect with him or her or whatever. And I think it's just that constant building off of what Rich is saying, is having that central location to go to where they have a real good vision of the entire group, being able to kind of reach out to those areas. So, you want to say anything, Sam?
Okay, all right. So interject a little bit of humor before I go to another one. A question came in. It said, if all Penn State students are going to IBM, Rich, I'd like to know what the Merck and Volvo liaisons have to say about that. This is an interesting one. The other question that came in was wondering how you would, if you have advice for evolving a transaction-based corporate mindset to a strategic partnership mindset. Sometimes this is difficult, so they took two parts, transaction to strategic. What does that look like? And then the comment was, sometimes this is difficult when trying to develop centers with researchers at a corporation.
So I'll take a stab at that. But the first humorous one is that there are more Penn State graduates at Merck than any other biopharmaceutical company in the world. That is a fact. Now, when it comes to transitioning from a transactional relationship to a strategic relationship, there may be one person in your organization that sees that future. I happen to have a mentor at Merck who started my group. She's now in Switzerland doing another job for Merck, but she's going to come back in a very high leadership position. And when she does, that culture will come with her. So it's really a change of culture. We run into it on a daily basis, that if we're trying to move away from that transactional relationship where you go to the gas station, you fill your tank, you give them money, and you leave, and you're trying to move more toward something where, what can I help you with? Is there anything wrong with your car? Is there, those types of things where you're really looking at the interest of the individual and trying to solve a problem. That's when you start to move away from that transactional relationship, I believe. And that's what we're trying to do, but it's also a major culture change for both organizations. Some people see it where it could be and what the possibilities are, but not everyone, because sometimes we get stuck in what we're doing. And it's hard to kind of move away from that.
No, I would agree, and I think all three of us touched on it, and it's represented by this slide, I think, is that the power and the strength of the university relationship is so much more than just transactional. I mean, that might be where it starts originally, and I think even for us, even though we had an academic partnership corporately, a lot of people thought of it in a transactional way. But as you grow and as you develop and as you see these types of things come together, people absolutely start thinking more of it in a strategic way. And I might have missed the second half of the question, but when it comes to research centers, I think that is something that comes along, with the strategy. As you see, a focal area from your company that matches real well something that the university claims as its expertise. So, yeah.
And one last announcement before we break. For those of you that are interested, the third Monday of every month, 8:30 in the morning, we do an internal call on IBM.
I'm not on, don't worry. Not even awake by then.
This is internal, just to update everybody on all the activity across the university. So if you're interested in one of the 5 programs, we encourage you to get involved and join those calls. So I want to thank our panelists, thank all of you. We're running